Dr. Dean Beckloff has been working as a counselor with students, families, kids, and teens for over 40 years. As the founder of the Beckloff Behavioral Health Center, Dr. Dean focuses on children and families that need a little extra help via counseling. Each week with Dr. Elizabeth Zach, we discuss all things family related to help people create the positive family they want to build. Welcome to the Dr. Dean Show.
Welcome back to the Dr. Dean Show. Today I'm very excited because we've got an amazing guest with us. Her name is Erin Burdette. Erin is into the arts, and I would say more specifically the theater arts, but she knows it all when it comes to art and being able to work in the art medium, perhaps specifically with people who are in counseling. And we're going to explore some of that today with Ms. Burdette, and I'll just call you Erin if that's okay.
That is great.
Yeah. Erin works for us at our office, and so I will begin asking her a few questions here about her role and about how she got into this thing. So, Erin, please talk about your current role at our center, Beckloff Behavioral Health Center, and the degree that you're about to complete, and you're also already using it in our center. So,
yes.
What are you doing?
What I'm doing is I am a third-year graduate student at Lesley University, and I'm getting my degree in mental health counseling and drama therapy. Not trauma therapy, drama therapy, as in theater.
However, I guess drama, you do use that with trauma.
I do,
as
you
well.
know, that's a good point. It's true.
Yeah.
Right, so drama therapy is an expressive arts therapy, so much like, you know, dance therapy, movement, art, music. It's sort of amongst those.
And painting.
Painting, sure, yes, and art, exactly.
Sculpting.
Sculpting, what is, so basically any
Here's what I
creative
remember
medium.
from art, paper mache.
Oh, I remember that. Yeah, that was gloopy. But yeah, so I'm working as an intern, but I do see clients, and I see mostly adolescents, but also parents, a couple teens. And basically, instead of using, you know, a talk therapy model, a lot of times what I end up using is, a lot of times art is what I end up doing first, because that's kind of, that's something where people are willing to start getting into that.
I guess it feels a little more safe, although
yes.
for
Everybody
me,
kinda
I
knows how
would
to
be
color.
moving into trauma trying to do art. But
right,
you
nobody
know, that's
has
just
to
me.
draw well or anything like that. But a lot of times you kind of go, oh, well, tell me, you know, how you feeling today? You know, here's a circle, and just we're going to draw our feelings. What do you think? What color? So that kind of thing. Most people will probably do that. Now, if I say, we're going to do this drama therapy acting exercise, lots of people would try and get up and run out of the room.
Right.
So I don't say that right off.
Panic,
right?
especially if there's an audience.
Yes, exactly. Although really, usually the audience is, you know, one, and it's me. So it's not the great thing. That's one of the great things about drama therapy is that it is very different than acting or theater, and that it is, at least using it in a therapy sense, it's not performative. It's not about being a good actor.
Right.
So anyone can do it. It's about accessing emotions, essentially.
Yeah. And so let me ask you, you know quite a bit about the arts, and I'm talking about the whole realm of the arts. It seems like not only about the theater arts, of course, but everything. So why is that? Why are you kind of an expert even on art therapy, for example?
You know, my mom often asks questions like this. Why are you the way that you are? No, really, I think I kind of came into the world this really creative human being. It's the way I connect to everything. It's the way I make sense of things. You know, when I'm listening to music in the car, you know, I'm listening to the lyrics, and what is it about? And you know, I always love to read, and so I think I just inherently have a really creative side, and it's the way I connect to the world. However, I think most people have a creative side, and what ends up happening a lot of times is that we know how to play when we're kids, and then we get older, and you know, the world beats us up in various ways, and we think we need to be an adult and serious. And so by the time we get to be, you know, in our 20s, when we really should be acting and having lots of fun and playing, we're really serious about things.
And I'm old, so there's an old word that comes to my mind when I think about what you just said, stifled.
Yes,
Stifled.
absolutely.
Yeah.
So all of those creative impulses get tamped down because think about it, if you're a kid and you're in school, well, they don't really want you super in touch with your creative impulses because you're probably going to be loud and be a, you know, I definitely had some of those
Yeah.
issues when I was in middle school. But but anyway, but that creative part that is in all of us. That's pre-verbal. We've had that since we were children.
Yeah.
It really connects to play therapy, which is of course what we do at Beckloff Behavioral Health Center. So it's been one of the great things I've really enjoyed doing is taking the play therapy setting that you have there and then sort of infusing it with drama therapy, which, you know, I'm learning about, which you can do really, you can kind of do a little hybrid. So that's what I've been doing and it's been wonderful and so fun and it works. It does.
So why do you think you are aware of so many of the different arts? Where has that come from? Is it your experiences? Is it just some of your loves in terms of the arts?
I think
Maybe all of that?
I think it's all of that. I think I just have an appreciation. I have an appreciation for art, visual art, I know nothing about. I mean, I can't draw a stick figure. I'm not an artist. But my son, for instance, is a great visual artist. So, you know, and my daughter, for instance, is also...
I'm learning something here. Visual art. What is that?
Meaning to draw. Or sculpt
Something,
or sort of 3D art.
I see, okay.
Right. And so while I appreciate it as an audience member, I can't do that, but I love it. I think it's amazing that someone can take a hunk of clay and, you know, make something out of it. That seems crazy to me.
Yeah.
So, and music, I think music is just naturally emotional. You know how music brings us to a time.
Yeah.
And I think with when I started doing my degree, we a lot of times got to do our homework, and they said, "Well, use one of the modalities, but don't use your own. So don't use drama, Erin. Use something else." And I found myself always going to art and doing these collages and things on Canva. And I didn't know what Canva was 3 years ago, but you know, now I'm making these various artistic responses to whatever we're learning about. But I love that medium, and it's completely new.
I'm sorry, what did you say? Canva?
Canva, C-A-N-V-A. So it's on the computer, it's this very cool kind of, you know, artistic. I mean, you can use it for all sorts of different things. But a lot of times I use that to make like online collages. So you know, there'll be some response question in a class, you know, about human development or something, and you can either respond by writing something, or you can, you know, do that with art.
Okay, so that's on computer, correct?
Yes.
Is that something that can also be used therapeutically with a person, like a person that you're sitting down with? Maybe particularly, and I don't know if this is true or not, but maybe particularly a teen.
Absolutely. So there are so many cool programs and things online for this very thing. For sand tray therapy, there is I'm going to forget the name of it, but it's sort of, you know, let's say it's sandtray.com. But the idea is you go and you have this sand that's there, and you have different items that you can pick to drag into the sand, so you can create your own little world. Maybe you bring over, you know, a mountain or a bridge, or you bring over, you know.
Oh, so it's online.
It's online. It's online.
And as you know, we do have sand trays, and we can do the physical sand tray, which I guess is
which is
bit
wonderful
of like
too.
an arts as well.
Absolutely.
When you're using it in that way.
It definitely. Sand tray is one of the things that in my drama therapy, you know, class that I took this summer that we learned about with sand tray. So the symbolism of, you know, if you tell a child, create in this little contained space with sand, use any of these figures and create what feels like safety to you. You know, what they'll put is amazing. And then you can say, well, tell me a story about what you put, you know, there.
And currently it's October. We're moving towards Halloween. I guess you could do something kind of scary.
Yes.
I'm kidding.
Yeah,
I don't know.
hey, you could. So absolutely.
In your work at the Beckloff Center, and I will say, if you want to learn more information about us, you can go to www.drbeckkloff as in Frank.com, drbeckloff.com. I know that our show is called Dr. Dean, but we also go by my last name, Beckloff. But at the Beckloff Center, which arts do you employ in your work there? What would you consider some of the arts that you utilize, from littles, and we start around 2 or 3 and go up to 92, but from littles to big, what do you do?
Right. So with the younger kids, a lot of times, like I said, art a lot of times is a great way in, and you can, have many different materials and say, you can choose from this. What would you like to create today? A lot of times it's how are you feeling? Something that if you said, how are you today? They might go, fine, and not really be that into it. If you said, show me on the paper, how you're feeling, or clay is another great,
I guess if they grab
idea.
a black crayon and go like that, that tells us something.
Which they sometimes do, right? Sometimes you might say, how are you feeling today? And they might grab, a crayon, and okay, so maybe it seems like maybe you're feeling a little bit mad. What's that about?
And that is a way to get out what's going on the inside.
Absolutely. It's a kid's way of bringing, what their emotions out that doesn't have to be
And it's a communication
verbal.
then. Although,
Right.
even me, I could take a black crayon or a black marker and do the same thing and it would communicate the same thing, correct?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely. No, any age, any person can do that. Kids also really love games. And so I find that sort of drama games work really well with, really up through adolescence. Once you get to teens, they might be a little bit like, I don't want to do a game.
So not too much on gamey,
But you can sort of, I like to really tailor it to who I'm working with. So if they seem like they're a little skeptical, then I'm going to probably be very nonchalant about the fact that I'm putting in, a psychodrama intervention. I'm not going to probably say, we're going to do this role-playing activity in the chair, place, your father or your mother or your sister.
which you can do.
But you can be very upfront about it, and that's definitely something that I do, depending on how
where they're at.
Exactly.
And I
But
guess
you
a
can
lot
also
of it
get the same
depends
thing
on your rapport and your relationship with
Absolutely.
them and whether you've established a sense that they can feel safe. They're
That's-
not going to be laughed
absolutely.
at.
Right. So
Yeah.
that is always, I think that's maybe one of the things I've learned most working in this internship with you, is that regardless of what sort of methodology you use, the main thing is that you feel that you are listening actively and hearing what they're saying, they're hearing what you're saying, and you're connecting. And a
What
lot
about
of times,
children? What about children?
oh, the kids know so well what's going on. And so they know if you were really there with them and you're listening, or if you're, thinking about what you're doing, or you're focused on something.
Have you done anything dramatic, I guess, at our center we have play therapy rooms.
Yes.
And we have a lot of activity rooms for kids so that they can express themselves through play.
Exactly.
But and so I guess play therapy in itself is a bit of what we're touching on.
There's a crossover, for
Has there
sure.
been anything that you've introduced that's been a little bit unique from the typical play therapy?
A few different things, but one thing that I've done recently that was really fun was with a client who is having a lot of big feelings. We did kind of interestingly, like, okay, well, I gave him a little microphone. We have some of those microphones in the rooms, and so this is going to be your own talk show. What do you want to talk about today? Let's talk about how you're feeling about some things that are going on at school, but it was his show, and so I got to interview him. And so then he feels important, and he's kind of being funny, and so I'm kind of laughing because he's saying funny stuff, and then he's feeling like, all right, maybe
He
I'm
was
doing
doing
a
his
good
own
job.
Dr. Dean show.
It was very. This is like a metaphor for what we were doing.
Yeah.
Honestly, it was a way to get out. He was really upset about something that happened on the playground, essentially, and so he got to dramatize that and sort of and
that's
speak it.
fantastic.
Yeah.
Because sometimes I think many of us adults, we are more concerned about the misbehavior than what was happening, and we're aghast
Yes.
as parents that somebody would do that.
Yes.
But we need to stop and listen and hear them out. And I think what I'm hearing is that this is another way to hear and really listen. And I guess I'm thinking about in our play therapy rooms, we always have a puppet stage with
absolutely.
puppets there. So it seems
That's
like
a
that would be
huge
a
resource.
natural.
So yes, absolutely. So a lot of times we'll you know, I might have a puppet and I'll say, okay, which puppet do you want to choose today? And they'll choose one and we, you know, we name it. A lot of times, so well, have your puppet talk to you. What's their voice sound like? You know, and I do it too. So it's not like I'm just watching them, you know, and, you know, create this for me while I'm staring at you. I'm also kind of trying on voices, and maybe I'll say, you know, hi, oh no, that voice is really silly. Why did I do that? You know, a lot of times what I'm trying to do is sort of get them to connect to the humor part of things, because that's kind of, can't help it, that's kind of my deal. But a lot of, you know, that's very natural for kids, and a lot of times they come into therapy going like, their mom has told them they have to go, they don't really want to go, they don't want to talk about their feelings, and then they're like, wait a minute, we're playing again, we're going to play with the puppet?
And this is fun.
Okay, all right, I'll do this.
Yeah.
And a big thing about, you know, for instance, the thing I was just telling you about with the child that came in and was feeling bullied, you know, he also was experiencing a lot of shame and embarrassment that he had been a target, essentially.
It is. It's embarrassing.
It is.
Yeah.
And they don't want to talk about it. And so what was so great about you're the talk show, you're kind of the esteemed person here, is that then that infused him with a confidence, and he kind of thought it was fun, and he just wasn't stuck in the narrative about, you know, I'm the kid who people are picking on.
So, as we move on to other age groups like teens, you know, I've been to so many different training seminars by now.
Yes.
And have been to some art therapy trainings. One of my favorite little things that I picked up through the years was draw a picture of something that you want to erase out of your life.
Ooh, I love that.
Draw a picture of something you want to erase out of your life.
Yes.
And I thought, that's kind of cool. And I've used that, and kids really can get into that, you know, a little bit older kid, and then also even teens. So
Absolutely.
Are there other things that you've used like that are more therapeutic when you're combining both art with therapy?
Absolutely. So, I mean, there's also, just jumping to music with teens. You asked about teens, and a really quick way in for teens is to say, we work a lot with families in reunification, high conflict divorce situations. So if you have a teen who hasn't seen a parent in a while, a great thing to do that can connect is, you know, we're going to play, what's a song you want to play for either how you're feeling right now, how you feel about your parent, how you want your parent to know you feel. And they're sort of, again, they're both giving each other a song. So it's not like it's just the kid having to perform something for the parent. It's the parent is also being asked to be creative. And that's pretty fascinating, because music brings up all these, you know, these feelings, you know, fairly immediately. And so if they're, you know, as families, we have songs that are kind of our family growing up, and so that's a quick way to access, you know, some emotions a lot of times. When maybe people are feeling a little standoffish and like they don't want to go there.
And if you're working with a mom, for example, or a dad and the kid, do you do the same thing? Have the parent pick out a song?
Absolutely.
Even though it may not appeal to the teen,
yes,
it speaks something in that song, I guess. That
it asks for empathy, right? So each person, you know, the younger person is listening to the older person's song, and so you sort of have to place yourself into their position. And then the same thing for the parent. They have to, you know, normally parents kind of railing at, oh, music I don't like, but then if it's something they're giving you to explain how they're feeling, or something that reminds them of you, well, you as the parent are going to really listen, and you know, it actually brings people out of staying stuck in their own feelings.
So I mean, you know, people do art therapy, and you're into the drama, which is good too, although you are a trained mental health professional.
Absolutely.
So you're integrating this. Can you tell me a little bit about your history, your training? What got you into drama therapy? What about some of that early history of yours that brought you to this point in your life?
Yes. Well, I am, you know, on my 8th career. No, not really. But you know, I've done many different things. But I basically, when I was 14 years old, to get extra credit, essentially, auditioned for the one-act play, and that was the play that like all the seniors did and freshmen didn't get in it, but I got in this play and I got a good part. And I remember auditioning, and I kind of liked theater. I was in drama class, but I was auditioning, and I remember just kind of standing there going like, I just felt a little taller. I was like, I just felt at home. I felt like this is kind of my thing. And it's that flow state you can get into where I was very present and I just loved it. And so basically once that happened, then I was off to the races. I did theater from the time I was 14 until I was 28.
But including in high school?
Oh, all through high school. I was in every play. And it was also, it was incredibly therapeutic for me personally because my parents got separated the summer after 8th grade.
Oh.
So I was, kind of in a vulnerable spot. I was living with my dad. We, of course, weren't talking about a lot of feelings because, we didn't. And I didn't know how much it bothered me, really, I don't think. And then once I had the safety of what they would call in drama therapy, the aesthetic distance, which means you're playing a character. So it's not you. You're not responsible for what your character says. You're saying words that somebody else wrote if it's a play. But you are tapping into your own emotion that you can get from whatever place in your life you need to get it from. And so I think looking back, I realized that it was incredibly healing. That's why I believe in it so much, because I'm like, well, I know it's healing because it was for me.
It was for you.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And then did you go on into theater in college?
Oh, yes. So I did. I went to SMU and I was a theater major there and did lots of productions at SMU and, did local theater in town. And then I moved to California and I went to UCSD and I got my master's degree in acting, which was amazing in La Jolla. Lots of plays there. And then I lived in Los Angeles for 4 years and I did, the whole thing. I did commercial auditions and I was in an improv
But high
group.
school, you are from Dallas, is that right?
I'm from Houston. I grew up in Houston.
Oh, from Houston. So did you pine for Texas? Were you wanting to get back?
You know what happened? I was like, Texas, yeah. And then I was in California, which I really liked, but then I found out that I had Texas pride, essentially, because people would say, oh, where's your cowboy boots? And, people would kind of do an accent, and I would get kind of huffy, like, what do you mean? Don't you mean about Texas? But yeah, I did. I missed the friendly nature of people here, how you can talk to somebody if you go into a store. And I did miss home. I also did not think that I wanted to have kids and all of that stuff. And late in my 20s, I realized, I think I do want some of that. Once my sister had babies and I was around my nephews who are amazing.
So you got back.
I got back. I came back and, then I got married and then I had kids. And so I think I naturally used some drama therapy there as well.
And there's still a part of the scene that you have kids.
Yes.
They're still among the living. Yes. Yes. and very talented, I'm sure, as well. But then when did you decide to cross over into more of a therapeutic mental health kind of aspect with all of that training?
So I think even when I was in my 20s, I had heard of drama therapy and was very new. Drama therapy only sort of came around, and it's one of the later of the arts therapies, so like in the 70s. So, but I had heard of it, and I was always a little bit like, what would that be like? And I looked into it a few different times about going to school. My daughter was young. I looked just like, this just isn't the right time. And finally, my son in 2022, that was his senior year, and I knew, oh no. My son's going to school. I also did freelance writing for a long time, so I did that, but I was sort of
which is another
very
creative writing.
There's narrative therapy, which is one of my favorites within drama therapy.
Absolutely, yeah.
So, but I found out about my school because it's one of the only schools that gives you both the mental health counseling so that I can become a licensed professional counselor, but also the drama therapy so that I can become a registered drama therapist. So I'm doing the dual track for both.
Yeah. Which is fantastic.
Yeah, it's great.
And you come into that program having a rich background in the arts as well. What about adults? What about art or drama therapy when working with adults? Is that legitimate, or would that be something that would be in a particular kind of, I don't know, format or something that you would use with adults?
I would say I have been particularly amazed by several adults that I've been working with recently. Usually what happens is they at first are like, especially if it's say a parent and a kid.
And that would be me.
Right. People like, we're doing what? What is a role play?
Yeah.
No, I don't want to do this drama therapy.
I don't like role playing. Yes,
right.
I know.
I hate that. I'm not doing that.
Yeah.
And so I've learned to maybe do a soft sell on what I call it. But I will say that recently, in fact, I feel like what a couple of different parents in a couple of different situations have brought to Reunification, which is a very, very difficult thing to go through, both for the kid and the parent. But the parent trying to reestablish in their child's life, they also have this ex that they, are having to deal with that generally things aren't really great with. But to get them to open up enough to be vulnerable in front of their kid, that's like a pretty tall order. But through drama therapy exercises, they get there. They do it. They will, because the thing is, you can't edit yourself when you're doing something. When you're speaking from, for instance, I had a client and a parent who had been apart for a really long time, and that had been very hard. And so I had them, write a monologue, write something that and you're saying this to the idea of a part, but you're making a part sort of live. And they both did that. The child wrote really quickly, was ready to, read, and dad wrote, a person, dad or mom, wrote a lot slower, was not as into it, but got there. And then after I said, okay, so do we want to share those? And the child said, well, I will if you will. So parent has to say, all right. And they end up sharing what they had written to a part, what it had been like for them. And it wasn't accusatory towards anyone. It was just how they had felt. And they were both, they were in tears. It was, I was trying to not be in tears.
One of the things you mentioned before is that we do what's called reunification counseling.
Yes.
Reunification therapy. In our center, these are usually families that have walked through divorce land.
Yes.
And then a child begins rejecting a parent.
Exactly.
And I know you feel like that has been an amazingly good modality to bring in the arts.
Yes.
Because a lot of kids and a lot of teens, they do like art. They do enjoy that medium, whether it's music or really drawing something, or because I've seen you do this tree thing. I'm not sure what it is.
It's the tree of life, Dean.
But those are some benefits, I think, that come with utilizing drama therapy.
The great thing about it is everyone has a past where they colored with crayons or they, acted like a character. Everyone does, whether it's a long time ago or not. And it's disarming. It's sort of, a lot of the reunification clients, as you know, are, they are really standoffish. They're hurt a lot of times. They feel rejected.
A lot of pain.
They don't want to put themselves out there. They're like, why am I going to make myself vulnerable and get hurt again? There are all these things that are going on, kind of the prefrontal cortex, like, no way. But if you sort of bypass that by tapping into just play, which we all inherently understand. Yeah. And also, I think when they see each other also do it, I think that it makes them brave. I think they go, okay, well, and my kid's going to do it.
Loosens them up, if I can put it that way.
And also funny things happen a lot of times. So and I'll do warm-ups and things. I wouldn't have just jumped into like that exercise that I told you about. We did many other things before we jumped into that.
Exactly.
So and I know
we're about out of time, but I know that you have talked to me about, and so I'm going to ask you, but I already know the answer. I think you've had some very, how do you put it, enriching experiences with some of your clients.
Absolutely.
Where there has been a lot of perhaps tenderness, a lot of breaking down of barriers and being able to communicate again.
Yes, absolutely. No, again, that has been, when you're going to school for something like this, you hope, oh gosh, I hope it will go well and whatever, you're thinking, I really hope this works. And, I guess I have been just kind of blown away by, wow, this really works, this medium, and part of it is because I love it too, I'm sure.
Yes.
But it really is a way to connect, like you said at the beginning, the client-therapist, or the therapist-client bond, that's super important. So if you have that there, then all these other creative things just flow.
Yes. Well, thank you so much for being willing to come here today and talk a little bit about the work that you do. I think it's exciting, I think it's interesting, and it's fascinating. And if you want to learn more details, go to our website at drbeckloff.com, drbeckloff.com, and you can also find this also on our website, as well as a number of other Dr. Dean shows there as well. Again, thank you so much. Thank you for joining in. Thank you for being a participant with us. And you have a good day, and everybody else.
Sounds good. You too.